Yeah. So, like I said, you'd not really need context much from the previous chapters. We'll start reading and yep, we'll go along with each paragraph. Mind over matter, the bitter Gothenburg chill cut through my jacket as I sprinted down the slushy sidewalk, heart pounding. My boots slopped onto the pavement in a desperate rhythm, but it was of no use. The bus pulled away, that smug driver glancing back at me in the rear view with a maddening smile. Another day, another failure to catch my chariot to class on time. One day I decided to stop. I promised myself never to run to catch any type of public transport again, except maybe an airplane. Enough is enough. I already hated the stressful nature of living in a big city, navigating grey slush and slippery ice patches every day, except for maybe 2 afternoons in summer when the universities are closed anyway. My constant failure to make bus on time added unnecessary stress to my already busy schedule. Once the decision was made, I noticed a strange phenomena. I stopped being late. Running was no longer an option. So I instinctively left the apartment earlier. The stress simply went away. Everything changed once I realized I couldn't change the weather conditions, let alone the bus driver's smugness. The only thing I could change was my attitude. One simple boundary altered my entire reality. I see that Saurabh has just joined us. Hi, Saurabh. Saurabh is joining us for the.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, just join.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Saurabh. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hi, Harsh. Thanks for joining.
Hey Shreya, and you have to do your ritual of introducing Bitshala to Saurabh, what we do at Bitshala.
Yeah. So, Saurabh, we are Bitshala. I hope you have heard of us and would love to share.
Yeah, I attend your sessions regularly. So, thank you. But you are doing a fabulous job, Shayan.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, Harsh has also become one of the regulars as Bitshala. He's a engineering fellow and he has taken a very keen interest in Wednesday Reading Club sessions as well. So thank you, Harsh, for joining. We had just literally read the first two paragraphs. So I can quickly read it again. I hope the others don't mind it. I'll quickly read it again. I literally just read it and you guys joined. If anyone else joins now, they don't get the same privilege. Mind over matter.
Romance.
Yeah, we're starting a new chapter, by the way. I was just telling others that you don't need context over rest of the chapters. You can start afresh with this chapter. So, yeah, Harsh has been regular, so you don't necessarily need to worry about any other chapters. But if you have context, that's always good. Mind over matter. The bitter Gothenburg chill cut through my jacket as I sprinted down the slushy sidewalk, heart pounding. My boots slopped onto the pavement in a desperate rhythm, but it was of no use. The bus pulled away, that smug driver glancing back at me in the rear view with a maddening smile. Another day, another failure to catch my chariot to class on time. One day I decided to stop. I promised myself never to run, to catch any type of public transport again, except maybe an airplane. Enough is enough. I already hated the stressful nature of living in a big city, navigating grey slush and slippery ice patches every day, except for maybe 2 afternoons in summer when the universities are closed anyway. My constant failure to make the bus on time added unnecessary stress to my already busy schedule. Once the decision was made, I noticed the strange phenomena. I stopped being late. Running was no longer an option, so I instinctively left the apartment earlier. The stress simply went away. Everything changed once I realized I couldn't change the weather conditions, let alone the bus driver's smugness. The only thing I could change was my attitude. One simple boundary altered my entire reality. Yeah. My understanding and interpretation of these two passages is that I'm sure everybody here has experienced this at least at one point in their life, that a simple decision, a simple change of attitude can profoundly affect your reality, can profoundly affect your life. And I think it's a very personal thing. So, of course, for people, the situations will be different. But bus rides and being late to them and a bus driver's smugness can affect your reality, is my understanding from this. Hi, Aditya. Thanks for joining. I think this is your second session as well, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it is my second session. I got late, but yeah,
Okay. Okay, no worries, no worries. No worries in being late. Merry Christmas. I will not
Merry
be able to
Christmas to
give
you
you
too.
the summary of. Yeah. What I can do is I will just share, like, I don't know if when exactly do you joined, but we are starting a new chapter. So just feel free to follow along and ask questions and share your personal anecdotes, journey.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yep. The extent to which the mind creates reality and the validity of the objective subjective dichotomy in general are fascinating philosophical puzzles that raise questions about the nature of reality and its relation to our perceptions of it. I'll read this again. The extent to which the mind creates reality and the validity of the objective subjective dichotomy in general are fascinating philosophical puzzles that raise questions about the nature of reality and its relation to our perceptions of it. A good starting point in this exploration is simulation theory. With rapid advancements in technology, especially in computer graphics and mid-wit obsolescence technology, AI, it's conceivable that future simulations could be indistinguishable from what we call reality. In short, humans and their machines are improving their reality mimicking capabilities at a mind boggling pace. So, how do we know we are not already living in a simulation? Whenever you are forced to complete a CAPTCHA on a website, a similar philosophical dilemma arises. If you were a robot, how would you know? The simulation concept extends to Bitcoin's operation within a presumably simulated environment. The simulation concept extends to Bitcoin's operation within a presumably simulated environment. Since a computer couldn't ever fake proof of work, the simulation would have to do the work itself, raising some intriguing questions. Could Bitcoin's proof of work mechanism influence or even slow down the simulation? Would the avatars living in the simulation be able to detect this aggression? Would they feel it? I'll read this again, and I'm sure. I've interacted with most of you here, except I think Aditya and Chandra for a lot. But I know Chandra is technical. I haven't interacted with Aditya a lot. So, proof of work. If you are new to it, I'll just briefly describe my understanding of it. Yeah. Did someone unmute themselves? Okay. I see. I am Shivam has joined. Hey, I am Shivam. Okay, yeah. So the understanding of proof of work mechanism is that proof of work is technique and algorithm, which is how Bitcoin achieves decentralized consensus, and it distinguishes itself from every other consensus mechanism. So the burning question for a lot of people new to Bitcoin is that how can there not be a better Bitcoin? How can Ethereum not be Bitcoin? Why can there not be Bitcoin 2.0? And there are, hard forks of Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, and infinite of them. So there are questions. There are serious questions, of course, that what makes Bitcoin special compared to everything else. And the most summarized version of that is that Bitcoin uses proof of work mechanism. And it's a technical algorithm. It uses SHA-256 and it achieves the target number by reiterating over nonce values. There are technical implications of it. But if I were to explain this to a layman, how I would do it is that the only way to earn Bitcoin is by showing proof of work, is by showing that you have delivered and there is value in that. So that is the only way to earn Bitcoin. There are two ways to earn Bitcoin. You can either ask a person to send it to you, or you can do some work, provide some service, and they voluntarily give you Bitcoin. So this is my interpretation, understanding, and explanation of proof of work. I'll read this paragraph again because I find this fascinating. Since a computer wouldn't ever fake proof of work, the simulation would have to do the work itself, raising some intriguing questions. So a computer cannot fake proof of work. This is the entire bedrock of how Bitcoin works. That if computers were somehow able to fake that they have achieved a certain number of zeros in the block hash, they can actually mine the next block without wasting a lot of resources, which any human would like. Computers clearly can't do this. They clearly are not incentivized to do this. If it were possible, currently a lot of politicians in the world would have been able to break Bitcoin, but they can't. The simulation would have to do the work itself, raising some intriguing questions. Could Bitcoin's proof of work mechanism influence or even slow down the simulation? Would the avatars living in the simulation be able to detect this regression? Would they feel it? Yeah, I'm not even sure if I understand these questions enough. What I can say is that I think this book has also mentioned this a few times that Bitcoin does not work because of proof of work. Bitcoin works because of humans, because of people running nodes, because of people valuing Bitcoin. And there is no human that can guarantee expertise over humanity because that is fundamentally impossible because value is subjective. That's one reason, because humans themselves are figuring themselves out. That's the nature of being a human. Everything else is bound within a fixed set of rules. Being a human comes with its own set of dilemmas and questions. So this is, I think the last chapter was we are all Satoshis, and we had a good discussion around it in the last session as well, that even Satoshi Nakamoto is not an expert in Bitcoin because he can't guarantee how Bitcoin will evolve. He can't guarantee that he has the complete picture of Bitcoin because he does not have the complete picture of humanity, economics, human action, game theory, economics, computer science, cryptography, and this. But Bitcoin is so multidisciplinary that my attempt to summarize it and how many domains it covers will be futile. So yeah, all of us are avatars. Whoever is volunteering to work in Bitcoin, whoever is getting paid to work in Bitcoin, getting paid in fiat. There is no purest test for me to become a Bitcoiner. Everybody's a Bitcoiner because everybody values something. They are valuing human action because they are participating in trade. So yeah, if you're living in this simulation, would you be able to detect this regression? I have no clue. Would you feel it? I have no clue. Recent developments in neurotechnology have seen brain cells integrated into computers to enhance our processing capabilities, further blurring the boundary between the human brain and our computation tools. Both our brains and our computers run on energy and electrical impulses, but our perception of and interaction with the world differ. Could artificial systems ever gain a sense of consciousness or feeling, something inherently human and beyond the capabilities of current AI technology? Yeah. So yeah, if you are a cyberspace legion, which a lot of pseudonyms are, nobody has ever seen a lot of people working in Bitcoin, and that's completely okay. You don't need to know if they are humans because they are contributing to Bitcoin and their work is valuable. So this is like the question of intersection of AI and Bitcoin. That how do we know that some human is actually contributing and not some AI? There is no fundamental way of knowing that. It's asking how can you know something is human if you can't touch them? And with a lot of people working on it, Elon Musk is working on Neuralink. I'm sure a lot of people might have already experimented with um, biologic. I'm not sure what the word for it is. Biotechnology, I think, is the overarching concept of integrating biology with technology. All of us are biological beings. We are carbon. We are made of carbon, and silicon is what makes computers work. So there is some product of carbon and silicon that I think Neuralink is at the cutting edge of because it's being led by Elon Musk. Whether or not Elon Musk is a good marketer, businessman, or an engineer is a secondary question. But I think a lot of people are interested in biotechnology and how it affects our intelligence, how it affects human race, how it will affect the futures. These are questions of generational importance because no other generation has even encountered the intersection of AI and Bitcoin. So I'll take a quick pause here, quick 10-second pause in case somebody has any questions. I'll check the chat as well. Bus driver once took me to an imaginary place. Yeah, I went. I think my first trip in life. वैसे तो स्कूल में थी. I went to what was the name of the place? It's somewhere near Maharashtra, Lonavala and Khandala. But since I have become an adult, my first trip was as an adult. As in, if being 18 as an adult, then my first trip was to family relatives. But I think the first trip that I think I made a conscious choice of making was actually Goa in 2022. And there's I have some stories with it. I wouldn't take up too much time sharing them, but
Just to correct you, Shreyan, you become an adult the day you understand Bitcoin.
oh, nice. So yeah, I think Shaukat also
I
shared.
wish I was on a computer to put emojis and make that sound
I
emoji.
think we should have more sounds, honestly. I sometimes wish that Discord had, currently there are like 6 sounds. Yeah. Hey Keshav, I see that you have also joined us. Keshav is also one of the regulars of Bitshala and he's contributing to Bitcoin in so many ways. Good to have you here. Okay. Yeah, I'll start reading from here. I'll not be able to give summary to, I think only Keshav has joined, but yeah, please feel free to ask questions and share anything that you like. We may never know from a praxeological perspective, however, machine consciousness makes little sense. Yeah, so praxeology is the study of human action. And if you have studied Austrian economics, if you've joined us for how to think about the economy sessions, praxeology is the study of human action, and how it defines human action is purposeful behavior. This is the number one axiom of praxeology and Austrian economics, that human action is purposeful behavior, which to me sounds vague on the first listen, that it is vague, but they do a good job of explaining how if you try to counter that human action is not purposeful behavior, you are purposefully trying to make the claim that human action is not purposeful behavior. So, as a human, all of us understand that there is purpose to life if you are acting and doing something. So, machine consciousness does not make sense because machines are electrons over silicon boards. And if you think that electrons have purpose, that's a secondary question. But for most people, electrons are matter and not life. As Mises teaches us, removing a felt uneasiness is the goal of every conscious actor's deliberate action. The actor envisions a future state in which they have performed an action and decides whether to act if that future state is preferable to the current one. No machine existing today can ever choose actions in this way since they have no means of feeling uneasy. In its current state, AI is thus provably lacking agency or free will. Yep, I think this is a good job of summarizing it that no electron has made a choice to move on its own. It's because of natural forces or because of human ingenuity that electrons move from A to B. So they clearly do not have free will. And yeah, humans do. So machine consciousness makes little sense. Now, do humans have free will? Can we even make conscious decisions? And if so, what effect does the decision making process preceding the actual synapses firing off in the brain have on our choices? I'll read this again. Now, do humans have free will? Can we even make conscious decisions? And if so, what effect does the decision making process preceding the actual synapses firing off in the brain have on our choices? Yeah. So I think from a very rudimentary neuroscience understanding, every action in our brain, everything that happens is neurons firing, is neuron making connections, and these are some biological words that I'm not entirely confident in explaining. But synapses, oh my God, Kindle has the definition: a junction between two nerve cells consisting of a minute gap across which impulse pass by diffusion of a neurotransmitter. Yeah, this is a pretty technical definition, but I think the simplest layman understanding of it is that it is a connection between two neurons. And there are connections being made all the time between brains, between our own individual brains as well. When I am speaking to myself, when I'm doing a certain action and I reflect on it, my brain is firing neurons and making connections. Yeah, so when that actually happens, and preceding that, you are clearly in control, right? Because you are a free will, because you are a free human being. So you make the decision to fire those synapses. Ideally, right? You would prefer to engineer your mind how you engineer a computer. So yeah, you are clearly the one in control of your brain. That's what we all hope. From a neurological perspective, the conscious part of our brain isn't in the driver's seat. Oh fuck. So from a neurological perspective, I'm not an expert. The conscious part of your brain isn't in the driver's seat. Maybe mine is, but I don't think I have complete control over my brain sometimes as well. The conscious part of your brain isn't in the driver's seat. Consciousness comes with about a 300 millisecond lag. Okay. The decisions you think you made, your brain already made for you. Before it made you feel like you consciously made the decision, you are not in charge. Your brain is. To further blow your mind, you can't even control what thoughts come into your mind or when. Our ability to deliberately do stuff is significantly limited. It's even difficult to prove that human free will extends beyond choosing what thoughts to pay attention to, what to focus on. What's even more inherently misunderstood by our minds is to what extent this focusing of the mind actually changes reality, not only your perception of it. I am not in control, so I have no clue if I am the one speaking. But what I can say is that thoughts do have power, and I think when you pay attention to the right thoughts, everybody has experienced this. There is some magic that happens, and when you focus on the right things, there is even more magic to discover because you act on those things, and that changes the material reality that we live in, because that changes our relationships, that changes computer code, that changes how much money you make, that changes a lot of things. I'll quickly actually read this last paragraph, which because I did not understand it at all. It's even difficult to prove that human free will extends beyond choosing what thoughts to pay attention to, what to focus on. What's even more inherently misunderstood by our minds, to what extent this focusing of the mind actually changes reality, not only a perception of it. So the focus of mind, according to this line, actually changes reality. It's not just a perception; it fundamentally changes reality, and that's a powerful trait to have. I think if all of us here can agree that all of us have the ability to focus, you can fundamentally change reality and not just your perception of it. So perception, I think, is a subjective thing, right? I can perceive vanilla to be tasty and vanilla to be not tasty the next day. So perception clearly is a very dynamic, loose thing. But reality does not have to be, because some things clearly are objectively true. I think all of us can agree. So reality is objective. It is thuk thuk, mechanical, physical, tangible, real. That's the etymological breakdown of reality. So your mind can change reality. The famous quantum mechanical double slit experiment illustrates how observation can affect outcomes, suggesting that our observation might literally shape reality. In its simplest form, the experiment involves a light source that emits a beam of light, which is photons, a screen with two parallel slits, and a photographic plate or a screen to observe the light pattern beyond the slits. When light is shown on a screen with just one slit open, it behaves as expected. A single bright band is observed on the detecting screen, which is what you expect to see. I think if all of us here have prepared for IIT, which I think all Indians have been forced to do unless you chose a better stream of subject, then you have prepared for IIT. And if you have prepared for IIT, I'm pretty sure you have studied the Young's double slit experiment. So the thing is that I think most schools do not do a good job of explaining it. I was very lucky to have a good physics teacher in school, Mr. Thana. I also had a good teacher in the coaching class that I had joined to prepare for IIT, which is NSB sir. He was pretty famous for being a very good observer, very good at explaining physics. So yeah, I don't think I can do justice to their work, but I'll share my understanding of Young double slit experiment. Yeah, I'll just read this paragraph again in case it is entirely new to you. I think double slit experiment is heard by most physics students who have studied physics even in school. And if you've studied physics on your own, that's even better, because that's something that curiosity striked you with. The famous quantum mechanical double slit experiment illustrates how observation can affect outcomes, suggesting that our observation might literally shape reality. In its simplest form, the experiment involves a light source that emits a beam of light, photons, a screen with two parallel slits, and a photographic plate or a screen to observe the light pattern beyond the slits. When light is shown on a screen with just one slit open, it behaves as expected. A single bright band is observed on the detecting screen, which is what you would expect to see. So just imagine you holding a torch and just a wall, and you observe that beam of light on the wall, which is the detecting screen in this case. So yeah, I hope that's pretty intuitive and simple to understand. That's how you know that you can see the beam of light, which is photons. And photons is a I mean, it's a subject in its own. That is photon a particle? Is it a wave? We'll quickly read the definition on Kindle dictionary. A particle representing a quantum of light, which is a packet of light or other electromagnetic radiation. A photon carries energy proportional to the radiation frequency but has zero rest mass. Right? Carries energy proportional to the radiation frequency but has zero rest mass. So yeah, a photon is not equivalent to an electron and proton and neutron in the way that it has zero rest mass. So it has dual nature. I think this is what Einstein has worked on. A lot of quantum mechanics is dependent on that. The nature of light is dual. It behaves as matter. A lot of experiments, it behaves as wave in a lot of experiments. Things become, I continue reading. Things become interesting when both slits are open. Instead of seeing two bright bands corresponding to the two slits, as one might expect if light were purely particle light, an interference pattern of several bands emerges. This pattern resembles what you would see with waves interfering with each other. Where peaks of waves align, you see bright bands. Where a peak and a trough align, they cancel out, suggesting that light behaves like ripples in the ocean of the quantum realm after they pass the slits. Perhaps even more surprisingly, even when electrons are fired one at a time, they still behave as if each electron goes through both slits simultaneously, like a wave interfering with itself. This result indicates that particles like electrons also exhibit wave-like properties. I think the simplest way to imagine it, I'll just attempt to find a good picture of it, is just TT balls, like the famous children level example of explaining the Young double slit experiment or quantum double slit experiment. Hope I can find that picture. But yeah, if you're an adult, I think you can use any of these pictures as well. So I'll use this one. So yeah, this is the light source. This could be a beam of electrons as well, because for the sake of this paragraph, we are using that. So when you use a single slit, it goes through, it reflects a beam of light, which is how you should expect. When you use a double slit, it has an interference pattern. So you would expect some electrons to go from here, create a pattern here, go from here, create a pattern here. But some electrons, because they either bounce off or they behave as waves, not just particles, they create an interesting pattern which ends up looking like this: alternate dark and bright fringes. So this is the Young double slit experiment in a nutshell. And this pattern is observed because we notice that eerie quality of electrons behaving as waves, not just particles. Electron being a particle is a separate experiment. I think I can't remember the name of the scientist who did it, but somebody was able to measure the weight of electron, and yeah, I can't remember the name, but that was the point of discovery of the electron. It's like electron is one of the most fundamental particles. There are quarks and muons that I have no understanding of, but electrons are one of the fundamental particles of the universe, along with protons and neutrons. So the discovery of electron actually precedes Young's double slit experiment. This is how we know that electron does exist. Now, electron also behaving as a wave is the discovery of the Young double slit experiment, which is odd. And this is something that yeah, we expect light to behave as, because light uh, behaves as wave. Right? That's at least the assumption that um, yeah, we use for light. Light does not have the nature of particle, right? You clearly can't measure light, or you can't say that there is some weight on you when light reflects on your body. For example, the most bewildering aspect of the double slit experiment arises when measuring devices are placed at the slits to observe which slit a particle goes through. Yeah. So the next step, I hope you remember the picture. If you don't, let me know. But when you actually put an observer at the double slit, it's like that wall, that detecting screen. If you put an observer there, that observer actually means a lot of things. Some people say that because it is fundamentally impossible for the human eye to be there, you can't do that experiment in a closed environment, right? Because humans can't detect electrons. Humans need light to be observing things. So it's fundamentally impossible to do this experiment at a scale that we would ideally appreciate. I'll take a pause here. I'll quickly read the chat. When observed, electrons behave like particles moving in a specific point in time and space. It's human enough for me. Yep, yep. Just like Murphy's law. Mhm. Makes sense. Nice explanations, bro. Love the laws of physics. So, bro ended up studying law. Yeah, I was not smart enough to make to IIT. That's why I studied law. Robert Millikan measured the mass of the electron, I guess. Okay. Okay, correct. Light also acts as a particle when you see Einstein's experiment and see the formula with Planck's constant, which have discrete behavior. Right. I'm aware of the Planck's constant. I think it's one of the fundamental constants. I'll read again the statement. Light also acts as a particle when you see Einstein's experiment, see the formula with Planck's constant, which have discrete behavior but may not be obvious to you. Yeah. I mean, physics is, of course, one of the most interesting subjects because that is the bedrock of the scientific renaissance. That's how everything that we use on a daily basis came into existence. Quantum mechanics is currently outside of my attempt to understand. I have watched some documentaries, but that's about it. I've not really gone deep into it. There's a documentary series by I can't remember the name. He's a brilliant scientist. I think he's quickly just search, and maybe I'll share it later, but I'll just make a search once. And he's actually pretty good at it. And yeah, I've been waiting for him to at least want to understand Bitcoin as well. Uh, Physics.
Bro, Bappy Lahiri is still doing job. Wow.
Popular is still doing a job. Okay. Yeah, his name is yeah. This is his face. His his name. Why can I not find his name? Yeah, Jim Al Khalil. I would actually. I remember his created documents a lot of things, but he's a brilliant explanation. I mean, gives brilliant explanation. That's how I would put it. He's very good at explaining the history of electricity. Yeah, the day he makes a Bitcoin video is the day that I think a lot of people will finally get it. Yeah, I would recommend him checking him out if you're ever interested. But yeah, what did you mean by Papillary still working at a job?
No. When you were searching, so the first song had like a lot of singers, including him. So it just says he's still in the industry. So even in spite of being so old, yeah.
Right. I don't think he's buying Bitcoin. That's why he's still working at a job. Yeah. Oh, where was I? I was here. Perception literally interferes with reality. So I was saying that when measuring devices are placed at the slits to observe which slit a particle goes through, when such measurements are made, the interference pattern disappears, and the particles again, producing two bands on the screen corresponding to the two slits. This suggests that observation or measurement collapses the wave-like behavior into a particle-like behavior. Perception literally interferes with reality. So I think, for most of history of physics, Newton never was curious, interested, or had to bother with quantum mechanics because Newtonian mechanics was radical enough at his time. So there was no question of perception literally interfering with reality. That was just not a question because just discovering that the Earth is not flat was a big enough deal. So, yep, the idea of quantum reality came much later in the last century. I think people like Heisenberg, Schrodinger, Einstein, Niels Bohr, these were the fathers of quantum mechanics, and these are like fighting. There is no one quantum theory. This is still an open question for physics. So, if the photons and electrons around us change when we observe them, what about the electrons in our brains? Do our brains and consciousness choose which parts of reality to perceive and interact with? Given that our brains are made up of these particles, are they actively creating our experience reality? And if so, to what extent? Consciousness is one of the great mysteries of nature. No one knows why it's there or where it came from. Since the days of Descartes, all we have been able to prove that about consciousness is his a priori conclusion. I think, therefore I am. We subjectively experience whatever our senses feed us. A dog has different experience of reality than a human, but each human most likely also experiences reality differently from every other human. The color orange looks different to each and every one of us, probably. If this is the case, the so-called Fermi paradox may have a new solution. Yeah, I think this is I think some somebody quote that isn't it the other way around? I think, therefore I am. Isn't it that I am, therefore I think? I exist first and then I think. Yeah, so just to reiterate the same point that this paragraph is making, that every
That was
human.
Descartes.
Right. No, but Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And the corollary or the contrary statement to that will be that I am, therefore I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's reasons to be said that, right? Some person can just sit with zero thoughts. I mean, this is the defense of the corollary or to this statement that I can also just be and think and not the other way around, that I think, therefore I know I exist. But yeah, the most controversial subject in human history, so I wouldn't bet my money on it. If this is the case, the so-called Fermi paradox may have a new solution. A concept in astrophysics and cosmology, the Fermi paradox highlights the puzzling disconnect between the high probability of the existence of technologically advanced extraterrestrial life and the lack of evidence for such civilizations. The paradox is named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who famously asked, "Where is everybody?" during a casual conversation in 1950. Fermi noted that given the vast number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, many of which are similar to the Sun and likely to have Earth like planets, it would be reasonable to expect a significant number of intelligent civilizations to exist. Furthermore, given that some stars are billions of years older than our solar system, some of these civilizations could be far more technologically advanced than ours and capable of interstellar travel or communication. Bewilderingly, there's absolute radio silence out there, which implies no such civilizations exist. Yeah. Again, this is, I think, the most asked question by every child who has looked into the night sky, that there should be some other life form. How can we be the only life form in this entire universe if we are to believe this is a huge universe? Yeah, and I think bringing a Bitcoin point to this, I think every Bitcoiner had a lot of points, and I am somebody who came into Bitcoin in 2022. So maybe the Bitcoiners who came before this, and I mean, Satoshi himself would know this. I think the earlier you come to Bitcoin, everybody has felt this. They have felt a sense of loneliness. They have felt a loneliness within their local communities, within their family, within their friends. That clearly some people are not able to perceive or see or understand what I am able to understand. So there is an alien civilization out there. It's called Bitcoiners. The solution to Fermi's paradox may be simpler than we think. If objective reality is where our subjective interpretations of reality collide, if objective reality is where our subjective interpretations of reality collide, the vast distance between interstellar objects might make syncing our realities with the realities of various xenomorphs impossible. What's really curious about this theory is that we can explain it using an intriguing concept in Bitcoin, the hash horizon. I'll just quickly read the last sentence again. I'll read from here. If objective reality is where our subjective interpretations of reality collide, the vast distances between interstellar objects might make thinking our realities with the realities of various xenomorphs impossible. What's really curious about this theory is that we can explain it using an intriguing concept in Bitcoin, the hash horizon. If the nature of the universe is as subjective as quantum mechanics suggests, the map defining the territory concept in Bitcoin may be more similar to the actual universe than we think. The average time between each block in the time chain is 10 minutes, meaning that a node more than 10 minutes away from another node could not reliably sync with the network, since it would be one block behind almost all the time. The law of hash horizon states that the farther miners are from the center of hash, the less effective their mining efforts become. The center of hash is a point near the center of Earth, slightly closer to the continent on which most of the mining power currently resides. So I think, yeah, I hope this was understandable that so Bitcoin optimizes for average block time to be 10 minutes, right? So if two nodes are fundamentally away from each other in the sense that they 10 minutes they can't reach each other in 10 minutes. So currently the speed of light is what is used to transmit messages. So we are imagining a hypothetical scenario that two nodes are so further apart from each other. This could be for some technical reason as well, but we'll imagine these are physically apart. So these are physically space wise apart. So they cannot reach each other within 10 minutes. So they are outside hash horizon. So that they fundamentally, if one node finds a block, they will require more than 10 minutes to be able to propagate it to the next node or the peer. The law of hash horizon states that the farther miners are from the center of hash, the less effective their mining efforts become. The center of hash is a point near the center of Earth, slightly closer to the continent, on which most of the mining power currently resides. Communication between Earth and Mars will require a sophisticated laser-powered telecommunications network. Assuming our current understanding of physics remains the limiting factor, the signal sent will still take an average of 12.72 minutes due to Mars's distance from Earth's center of hash. Martians will undoubtedly be able to use Bitcoin, especially via second layer technologies like the Lightning Network, but they will face transaction verification details due to their distance from Earth, creating unique security challenges. Right. So yeah, the current physics and technological limitations allow us to send messages to Mars, which require 12.72 minutes. So yeah, leaving aside the question of second layer technologies, yeah, there will be verification delays because yeah, it takes more than 10 minutes to be able to send the light signals to Mars. Keeping your Bitcoin node synced with the majority of the network from Mars would be impossible for most of the Martian year. When your Martian node is busy validating transactions in block X, Earthling miners are already mining on block X plus 1 or even X plus 2. Mining Bitcoin on Mars will also be impractical for the same reason. Communication delays will prevent Martian miners from staying synchronized with the time chain, resulting in fewer successfully mined blocks. In all likelihood, Earth will forever dominate the Bitcoin mining industry, even as humanity expands into the solar system and beyond. Is that why Donald Trump and Elon Musk? I don't know about Donald Trump, but Elon Musk clearly does not want to work on Bitcoin because he's going to Mars. Yeah, this is my just hypothesis of why Elon Musk is a shitcoiner. But yeah, there are good technical reasons for why Mars will need its own Bitcoin, will need its own money. These are like a technical description of why nobody who's focused on building a civilization on Mars has zero incentive to want to work on Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin on Earth. We can't rely on people who want to go on Mars. Launching another coin altogether would obviously be futile, since whoever started the project would have insider information about Bitcoin. Okay. Absolute mathematical scarcity achieved by consensus in a sufficiently decentralized distributed network was a discovery rather than an invention. A network of participants aware of this discovery cannot achieve it again, since the very thing discovered was resistance to replicability itself. Any duplicate, including Mars coin, would inevitably be doomed to evolve into yet another worthless shitcoin. That's a strong statement. Elon Musk, he can either go to Mars or he can become a Bitcoiner. He only has one. I mean, this is the question for him. Yeah. So one of the most profound sayings in Bitcoin, I think everybody who is active on Bitcoin, Twitter, or I mean any of the groups must have come across this before. At least this part. Absolute mathematical scarcity achieved by consensus in a sufficiently decentralized distributed network was a discovery rather than an invention. A network of participants aware of this discovery cannot achieve it again, since the very thing discovered was resistance to replicability itself. Here's the mind dynamite part. What if the intersubjective nature of consciousness works similarly? If our minds define the territory by drawing the map of reality together, akin to how the Bitcoin network participants create their own territory by designing the time chain together, does this mean that consciousness has a hash horizon too? If this is the case, the solution to the Fermi paradox is simple. Other life forms are too far away for us to sync reality with them. Our reality would fundamentally differ from theirs, as their minds would create other intersubjective realities within their hash horizons. Reality syncing would only be possible within a particular area of space-time. This is why normies just simply don't get it. And I think that's okay. It's almost as if our realities are clearly different. Bitcoiners think in a certain way, they value certain things. Normies value certain things, they think certain ways. There's nothing wrong with it as long as they are not getting in my life, in my way. Yeah, like I think, and I mean, of course, half joking, but also just one bit serious that I think Bitcoiners have felt a sense of loneliness, and I don't know why that is, because I think money is a very important subject to all humans on earth. So it shouldn't ever have to have been an experience of loneliness. If you have an idea on money, your parents, your friends should be more than open to listening to you on it. For some reason, a lot of Bitcoiners, maybe I'm one of them. Maybe some Bitcoiners have not experienced this. A lot of people do put up a lot of resistance to the point that it's impossible to explain to them why Bitcoin is important. And that's because their reality syncing is not possible in this particular area of space time. So let them be. Speaking of space time, let's think about our spatial and temporal dimensions from a more strict physics perspective. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, space time is a dynamic fabric around us that can be warped and curved by mass and energy. This curvature alters the paths objects. This curvature alters the paths objects take through space and time, which we perceive as the force of gravity. When a massive object like a planet, a star, or a black hole is present, the object distorts space and time around it. Other objects move along the curves of this distortion, which explains why planets orbit stars and why light bends around massive objects. From a photon's perspective, time stands still because it travels at the speed of light. As an object approaches the speed of light, time dilation becomes extreme. For a photon moving at light speed, time dilation is infinite, meaning that the time does not pass at all from the photon's point of view. Consequently, the photon experiences no passage of time between its emission and absorption, making its journey instantaneous in its own frame of reference. Typically, we perceive time as a linear progression akin to a sequence of images where each frame captures the universe at a distinct moment. This succession of moments feels intuitive, with the past fading and the future yet to unfold. The word timeline is an appropriate descriptor for this idea. A timeline is an arrow with the future toward the direction of the tip, a point representing the present in the middle of the arrow, and the past on the opposite side. However, this linear perspective is appended when considering the concept of a four-dimensional block universe. Okay, I hope, yeah, just not to get lost in the details, just imagine a simple, very simple arrow, as simple as you can imagine. The forward direction will be future, the present will be the center of that arrow, and the back end will be the past. It's like what's gone ahead, or what we do not really care about. It's like when you're fighting some enemy and you're firing an arrow, you clearly care about the tip, because that's what's going to penetrate and hurt and get you something. The back is does not. It's like it's a thing in the past. The theory of relativity disrupts the traditional separation of time and space, merging them into a single 4D continuum known as space-time. So yeah, space is 3D, right? You can move towards, I mean, upper, niche, sorry, upper, niche, left and right, forward, backward, up and down, left and right, forward, backward. This is the 3 dimensions. The fourth dimension in space-time is time. Movement through space is intrinsically tied to movement through time, leading to the realization that now is relative. Moving at different velocities, observers will slice through the space-time block at various angles, each perceiving a distinct now. Yeah, movement through space is intrinsically tied to movement through time, leading to the realization that now is relative. I did not follow this at all.
Bro, sorry to interrupt, but like, what is happening? Like, why is it even? Why is it coming into the picture? What does it have to do with Bitcoin? Like the speed of
Yeah.
light, time dilation. Like,
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I have no clue. Honestly, I have no clue. I hope this ties back into Bitcoin. This chapter is a pretty long chapter. We'll take a hard stop at 9 or 9.5. You don't have to go deep into quantum mechanics for sure. But yeah, I'll continue reading. If you're not able to follow, please, I sincerely apologize.
The guy is like a podcaster, like the author is a podcaster by heart.
do you
Like
know
going
what's his
tangent off the tangent.
educational? He brings in so much of
off the
physics.
tangent and then off another tangent.
Like, what's his
So far away.
educational qualification, or what his like training? Like, do you know? Like, maybe because of that he constantly pitches in some sort of thing that he already liked before.
I mean, I honestly don't know. I think he's an author currently, and
He's very esoteric. He's very esoteric,
yeah,
is what we can say.
yep. Yeah, I think, and just to, I think in its defense, I would just say that these are very personal subjects as well. These are, of course, these are dilemma-based concepts as a thing, right? That some things are not black and white, so they are intrinsically difficult to articulate and explain. And yeah, and to not defend him, I think this is, of course, going into subjects which are very technical and have nothing to do with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin does not live in quantum reality. Humans might live in quantum reality, but humans do not need to give one fuck about quantum reality to understand Bitcoin. So I'll I'll read till 9.5 maximum. We'll take a hard stop, and if it does not tie back to Bitcoin, we'll just tie a string around Bitcoin somehow. Movement through space is intrinsically tied to movement through time, leading to the realization that now is relative. Moving at different velocities, observers will slice through the space-time block at various angles, each perceiving a distinct now. This relativity of simultaneity means what we consider the present is just one of the many presents with no universal now to anchor us. Yet this particular outlook is deterministic since the past. Present and future would coexist, clashing with our sense of free will and the unpredictability introduced by quantum mechanics. Quantum randomness suggests that the future cannot be precisely predetermined, that the universe is not deterministic. This inherent uncertainty challenges the notion of an entirely predestined universe, hinting at a more complex interplay between time and the individuals experiencing its subjective flow. To reconcile these perspectives, one might envision a universe where the block of time is not complete, but grows with each new event, weaving together the countless nows experienced by individuals across the cosmos. In this ever increasing block model, the future remains open to the unfolding of events, thus restoring the possibility of possibility, so to speak. Now, there's a limit to what this ever increasing block of time would look like, and it's not block shaped at all, but looks like a cone or an hourglass if you bring the concept of possible paths into the picture. A cone of time represents the possible paths that light and signals can take through space-time emanating from a specific event. Imagine this event as a point in space-time where the cone is a three-dimensional model that shows all possible directions light could travel from that event, forming a cone shape. The future light Cone encompasses all possible locations that light could theoretically reach from the event, defining the boundary of casually connected events that could be influenced by the initial one. Conversely, the past light cone includes all points in space-time from which light could have traveled to reach the event, representing all past moments that could have influenced it. Outside these cones lies the elsewhere region, where events are too far apart to have any causal connection due to the finite speed of light. So, from an observer's subjective perspective, the ever increasing block model could play out within the cone of time starting from this observer's now. Now, what exactly do we mean by now? From a physics perspective, now refers to a specific point in space time. But to us individual human actors, now is a prolonged period during which we carry out a particular action. According to Mises, an actor feels uneasy. Imagine the state of the world where he has used some means to reach a specific end. He assumes will reduce his uneasiness and acts purposefully with intent. To further explore the difference between an objective and a subjective now, let's do a final dive into the weird realm of quantum mechanics. Quantum entanglement is a phenomena where particles become interconnected so that one particle state instantly correlates with the state of another, no matter how far apart they happen to be. This connection is instantaneous, even over vast distances, leading Einstein to famously refer to it as spooky action at a distance. Although entanglement is commonly discussed in the context of space, extending this concept of time opens intriguing possibilities. One way that quantum particles relate across time is through the concept of retrocausality. This idea suggests that an event occurring in the future can influence or determine the outcome of an event in the past, which is less far fetched than it sounds because of the indeterminate nature of quantum states until they are observed. Experiments involving delayed choice setups and quantum erasers hint at this retrocausal influence. In these experiments, decisions made at the time of measurement can seemingly determine the state or properties of particles in the past. This suggests that the future choices influence how particles are related or entangled before the choice is made. Just as quantum states can evolve forward in time, influencing future states, research suggests they can also evolve backward, allowing future states to affect the past. The measurement of a particle state at one time could be entangled with the state of another particle at a different time, suggesting a form of temporal connection that transcends our usual understanding of cause and effect. If this is the case, there might be such a thing as free will after all. Whether time is a fixed block, a growing continuum, or something entirely different, its true essence eludes us and will continue to do so during our journeys through it. The nature of time remains a mystery sitting at the intersection of physics, philosophy, and human experience. Put another way, it intersects systemic academic research, deductive reasoning, and pro science. Let's return to our favorite subject for a bit. Yeah, I hope this is over in terms of going deep into quantum mechanics. Yeah, and to again just to defend Knut in terms of maybe I have not done a good job in understanding quantum mechanics because I think quantum mechanics, of course, is profound at a level where the simplest way to put it for me is that observer has power over the reality of electrons and photons, which is a powerful realization, which is a powerful discovery. The most brilliant minds of our centuries, of the last century and this century, have put together and banged their heads for some reason. This is why that is important. So, yeah. And yeah, there's this book has covered the intersection of systemic academic research, which is empirical research, which is that some hypothesis is tested out with experiments, and as you start to observe patterns, you can deduct theories and build products and technologies on it. Deductive reasoning is reasoning from first principles, saying what is anything. It's like what is zero, what is one plus one equal to two, and such things. And bro science is anecdotal experience. Like bro, I was there, I saw it. मैं वहाँ पे था. It's a very personal, subjective, very interpersonal thing. You can't theorize and explain it unless you trust your bro. Let's return to our favorite subject for a bit. An intriguing aspect of the Bitcoin time chain is that its time space, block space, comes into existence in blocks as we agree on a certain probabilistic truth. This in turn reflects our deepest understanding of the fabric of reality itself and the perceived relationship between the subjective and the objective. Therefore, Bitcoin is a metaphorical anchor to time itself. Time is money, Bitcoin is time. I think all of us do fundamentally realize this that अर्थ पे रिसोर्सेज की कोई कमी नहीं है और अर्थ पे अच्छे लोगों की भी कमी नहीं है, पर हम सब झगड़ते हैं, हम सब कहीं ना कहीं we want more and we have conflicts, which is the nature of humanity. The only thing that we know for sure is that time is scarce. It's like we can't, I don't know if Bitcoin actually is 21 million. I'll have to do the research and verify the source code and understand the probabilistic assumptions. But I know that time is scarce because I've seen people die. I know that I'm going to die. Good probability that all of us will die. There are researchers working on life extension. But one thing that current history has told us is that time is scarce and money is scarce because money needs to be scarce and Bitcoin is scarce. So time is money, Bitcoin is time. We have about 4 minutes left. I'll read 1 or 2 pages. I won't take more. Yeah, I think we're literally at the end of the chapter. We'll actually complete this. Regardless of our understanding or lack thereof of quantum mechanics, our attention also shapes our realities in pretty wait. Regardless of our understanding or lack thereof of quantum mechanics, our attention also shapes our realities in pretty straightforward Newtonian ways. Whether we are aware of it or not, our actions influence others and mold the world around us. Even minor actions ripple through society, affecting and changing reality, often called the butterfly effect. The interconnectedness of actions and perceptions underscores the impact each individual can have on the collective human experience. Our focus and attention become the world we live in. If you are in a crowded room with a murmur and a buzz, and suddenly someone calls your name, you'll immediately switch your attention to that particular voice. Your name could even be whispered, and you'd still hear it. Where once there was only white noise, remember life struggles accurately. Remembering life struggles accurately could turn the most joyful human into the worst Debbie Downer you have ever met. Turn optimism into a defensive weapon, and you'll win the battle of life. Learn to enjoy every moment because it is truly all you have. They are happy, I am happy. They are not happy, I am happy. This is the way. The fact that being optimistic has a positive effect on your life is self explanatory, but the impact is far more significant than you can imagine. Let's rephrase that. The extent of your imagination might be the only thing hindering you from drastically changing your life. The map you choose to draw influences your territory much more than you might think. You can meme yourself into being. You can live the meme by becoming the dream. If you focus on being valuable to others, this is what you will become. If you're valuable to others, they'll be willing to give up things they deem valuable in exchange for your time and efforts. Contrary to what a famous Guinness beer commercial once proclaimed, good things do not come to those who wait. Good things come to those who work their asses off to provide others with good things. The more attention you pay to Clown World, the more it becomes your reality. The only way to make Clown World go away, figuratively and literally, is to focus on something else. Whenever you engage with a clown or a clownish idea, you give them the attention they crave above all else. You become their amplifier. If you instead ignore them and start building the world you want to live in, you amplify that reality and reduce the clown's power. It doesn't matter what the idea the clowns are trying to sell, multiple genders, border walls, or JPEGs on the blockchain, the best way to stop them is to build something better. As George Bernard Shaw counseled, never wrestle with the pigs. You both get dirty and the pig likes it. Thank you guys for joining. Yeah, thank you, Keshav. Good night.
Have
Great
a good night,
session.
bro.
Great session, Shreya. Thank you for reading out.